All right. Good morning. YouTube has let me know that I'm live. So let me take a moment here before we go into the show any further. Please be sure that you have subscribed. I appreciate it. Make sure you have thumbed it up. Go ahead and share the video if you enjoy this kind of thing. And I'll tell you what, I'm getting a lot of new viewers on my older stuff to some of my new stuff. It's kind of cool. And according to my analytics, I'm back up to 73% of you people are not subscribed. But hey, take a shot, give it a chance. And then it's a subscribe, hit that bell. If not, I'm still glad to see you guys, right? All right. So anyway, as you can see from the title of this video, I have a video that actually did pretty well. Where I had some Mylights backing boards and decided to go through my keys because for you new guys, I've been talking about it for the last couple months. I'm thinning out all the comics. I'm going to be selling them, and keeping a lot of stuff. We're shrinking down a collection that is probably around 20,000 comics, right? So as I'm doing this and I'm not buying a lot of new stuff and I'm really not going to be doing a lot of topical videos right now because I could bottom line what's going on right now, in my opinion, with what I kept up with, we're going to keep it about the comics, right? So one of the things that I am doing today is I've been getting on eBay and I'm finding great prices for these archival edition bags, right? I've done my research, got to do your own research, see what works for you guys. And let me move this around so I can actually be looking at you guys, right? So what I've been doing is you guys need to, I suggest doing your own research because this is what's working for me. And I'm late to the game. I'm late to the game. I have come into this century at least with getting archival bags. I've been bagging and boarding a lot of stuff over the years. I am now at that age to where things that I remember buying yesterday, it's time to rebag them. So, what we're going to be looking at today is that I was on eBay. I got a fantastic price on these with no free shipping. And they came down pretty quick, down from Chicago, right? So these are regular Silver Age edition, 2mm Mylar. And as you can see, there's the measurements, right? And thanks to my buddy Anderson for helping me out there a little bit. He let me know about fullbacks, halfbacks, a little bit, and stuff like that. So these also have 100% acid-free backing boards, fullback. And, it's not so much, it says standard, but I go by the measurements there to make sure that everything is cool, everything is kosher. And I tell you what, it is a great feeling to kind of look back. If you guys have followed this channel for years, this video was built on comic history in at comics, outside of the comics, things that were going on, because I have been collecting comics for 49 years, guys, and on YouTube for my 16th year here. And it's real. And then the other thing that was showing you guys, I would go to flea markets and antique shops and yard sales and stuff, just out of my habits that I've been doing for decades. And I showed you how to get comics books for cheap. So there's a lot of things in here that are cheap, but they ended up being really valuable comics and stuff, right? And then of course there's a few things where I found them for a little bit more and stuff, right? But it's really satisfying to have my shopping all those years and acquiring these books and having them laid out in these high def bags. And I looked up, right? I want to kind of tell you what a mint value would be because I haven't gone through and really graded these. I've had them for a while. So in the proper video, check that out. I'll probably link it up after this live show. You can go through and I'll take a post note and put it on there what the value was. Well, this one I was just sitting down with a notebook as I went through these books and stuff trying to decide, right? And I had to really pick and choose, right? Here's the stack that I have not put in Mylar bags. I have about 20 Mylar bags left over, but I also have a stack on the side thinking about it. But what I did is I chose these by the fact that they were in good condition. Let's get them into, a higher grade. Let's go ahead and hurry up and get them into a bag, even though I might have other books that may be more valuable and things like that. And then there was just things I just wanted in a bag, and then of course, as they popped in my head and stuff, right? Because when you have a collection as big as I do, there are books that are worth money, that no one talks about. I have the second appearance of Star Fox with the Avengers, thanks to the MCU movie, I guess. I have his second appearance in a book you've probably never even heard of, that I just happened to run across the value online, looking up things on eBay, and it was going big. I actually looked it up. Now, speaking of value, as I show you this, right? Now, this is something that is very I'm at peace with. You know what I mean? I'm at peace. If I ever wanted to resell this, of course, I would like to get the best value. But then there's a thing about this hobby where there's got to be a standard, a little bit of dignity. This is kind of where the big boys collect, if you will, right? There is no comic book collector app. Okay, we are not going to buy inflated eBay prices. We have gone to comicbookrealm.com, an actual online um, price guide, and that's where I sort of was looking at. That's where I look up the values. There's 2 or 3 other places. God, I can't think of them right now, but at some point I'll probably talk about 1 or 2 other places you can go. Right. So yes, these are actual comic book values, not the values that are inflated if you just collect online. Okay. So I really hope we reach a point where we get past all of that and we do that. So let's see who's here. Charlton 66. Oh man, great to see you, brother. Thanks for checking in this morning. Hey Tim, looking forward to seeing the video. I hope all is well. Everything is well. And Charlton, just to let you know, next week I will be getting my weekend pass for Heroes Con if everything's going smooth. My birthday is coming up as well, and Steve might be getting an Airbnb down there, so I look forward to seeing you at Heroes Con. Looks bad. Everything's looking smooth as can be right now. It's been way too long, brother. I've been happily married, and time flies when you're happy, man. So I didn't realize how much time had gone by. Okay. Here we go. Did Hero 11 go in Mylar, Gretzky? At some point it will. I love that. Gretzky, longtime viewer, knows my love of a comic book called Hero number 11 that I consider one of the top 10 best written comics of all time. Thank you, man. That's great. I use, okay, then Charlton's right here on it, man. I use E. Gerber Mylights 2 with halfbacks. My main collection are all Mylite 2 and halfbacks. I just love them. I love this talk. I love the comic book talk. I love the language, and I love this comment, man. Yeah, Charlton, that is fantastic. I will check those out. I think my last video, my actual video, this is of course a live stream. I wanted to have some fun with this. The last video I did, I believe those were my lights. I have the bag here somewhere and everything like that. So we'll see what it is. John 7054 is here. Hey, Howler Mouse, great to see you again. That is always my cue. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. People who have been hyping my videos, I appreciate that. It shows up in my analytics. I appreciate that, man. And Gretzky's, I'll be at Heroes Con on that Saturday. Oh, Gretzky, I'll, maybe we can also see each other finally. That'd be great. Okay, guys. So keep the comments coming. I like them. I have 30 comics here that I'm going to go ahead and show. I have them divided by sort of indie, I guess is what we would call it. We have some Marvel. I think there's about 10 Marvel. And guys, I'm a DC guy. I'm a DC guy. So there's oh my gosh, there's a huge stack of DC here, right? So since Charlton's here, I think we're going to go this way. No, it's not a Charlton thing, but it's not a Charlton comic yet that I have put in here, right? But I'm going to show you the grail of my collection, right? And when I say grail, grail just not a grail. I feel like I'm the person that brought that onto YouTube years ago. I have backup and stuff, right? And that's not a humble brag, but the reason it gets to me is that a grail is just one. The Holy Grail is just one cup. There's only one of them, and this is the grail of my collection. This is probably my favorite book that I acquired that I wanted because they just did one issue of this, and it was in 64, I think. And I was able to find this at a flea market, Hillsville Flea Market, in 1 year. I did not get it. I went back the next year. The person who was selling this was a fan of my channel, and we would talk, and I would see him for years. I haven't seen him in the last 5 or 6 years. I hope he's okay. I haven't seen him dealing at these flea markets or anything like that. And I got a fantastic price for this. He gave it to me for $27. I don't know if I looked it up or not. No, I did not look it up, but this is this book is worth several $100s mint. We'll just put it that way, right? But it is the Gold Key Johnny Quest retelling of the Lizard Man episode, right? The Lizard Men. I absolutely love this book. I coveted this book for years. I never thought I would have the opportunity to run across it, let alone buy it, and also get it in the shape that it's in. I have seen other people have this book, and despite all the ticks on it and the love that is in it, it is complete. There is still some gloss. The staples are there. There are a few pages that are actually still kind of creamy in this, right? So we have made it in there. Um, I just absolutely love this book. Yeah, there's a rip at the top and stuff, right? But yeah, I absolutely love this book. In 1977, guys, I was 4 years old. I don't care to share that. What I would do is Saturday mornings, I was one of those ADHD kids before they had that. I was on the Ritalin for a while, believe it or not, when kids would get zombified, sitting there in kindergarten watching Sesame Street. But anyway, Saturday mornings were mine. I would wake up, belly crawl down the hall, so I would not wake anybody up as I went past their bedrooms, turn on the television, and before you had the ABC, CBS, NBC, uh, proper cartoons come on, from like 6 to 8 o'clock, you had syndicated stuff. I don't even know what syndicated was, right? My Sundays consisted of SCTV, Muppet Show, and Sha Na Na, right? Those were syndicated. But Saturday mornings, it was things like Dr. Snuggles, but the big two, The Adventures of Dr. Snuggles, a very cool cartoon. Don't let the name fool you. But the big cartoons were Johnny Quest and Battle of the Planets. Battle of the Planets was the first syndicated show, cartoon I ever saw. That was probably my first exposure to manga, Japanimation, or whatever you want to call it. And you had to watch them in order. And yes, they did broadcast that last episode that was controversial. That if you get online, at least I did a few years ago, and they said it never aired in America, it aired. Okay. So yeah, Johnny Quest was a huge, huge influence on me, and I'm still a fan to this day, right? As many people should be also of that, right? Okay, come on, pull all your comics, put all your comics in Mylar. We're getting there. We're getting there. Thank you, Splash Page Comics. Charlton, I remember when you acquired that Johnny Quest stellar book, a book that is a gem in any collection. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Dennis Hayes, same here in Roanoke. Fantastic. Splash Page Comics, Shana. I haven't thought about that in years. Bowser, dude, I still look at seven. I still play in. I use YouTube for a lot of music, and you need to check out their version of Teen Angel. I watched the early '70s Shana concert footage when they were all still in college and nobody knew that and stuff like that. But look up their version of Teen Angel. It's the most dramatic thing you've ever seen on stage, and it's glorious. Moving on. Okay, guys, let's do let's do Marvel. Let's go ahead and just do Marvel. Guys, this is a book that I acquired last month. I got this for probably I talked the guy down. What a lot of people don't realize is depending on where you're at, antique shop, secondhand store, maybe even comic book shop. And I'm saying this with a wink, wink, and a nudge, nudge. You don't need to be obvious. I don't know, but a lot of people will give you a better price if you carry cash, right? They don't have to swipe that card. There may not be a record, a paper receipt, whatever reason it is. Maybe you're saving them money by not having to charge, whatever, a few dollars to use their card machine, if you will, right? But I told this guy this is the price he had. I found this book in the guy's boxes. He always will look them up, and he has a few people working in the shop that'll tell you the value. And I found it for him. He put it on the wall. I thought about it. I went through, looked at a little bit of budget, went in there, haggled the guy, and even got a lower price when I said, this is what I got in cash. I'll give you this that I have in cash. That's what happened. I was like, here's the cash. You want it or not? That's basically how it came down, right? And we got this for a great price, right? But if you have Spectacular Spider-Man number 90, if you have an Amazing Spider-Man 252, that's the one that everybody wants and everyone has and things, right? They forget about the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man that came out. They forget about the Marvel Team Up number 141 that comes out. They forget about the Amazing Heroes number 39 and I think number 35 if you really think that magazines and advertisements and previews or actual appearances, whatever. But and then you have Secret Wars number 8 and things like that, right? But it's the symbiote costume, right? This is the month that it came out. Spectacular Spider-Man number 90. I'm going kind of by memory here. I think I'm all right with this. Amazing Spider-Man 252, and the to complete the trio, Marvel Team Up number 141. This is when Spider-Man would wear the symbiote costume in canon, in all the books, right? I really dig this book. I have not read it. I mean, of course, it's supposed to be with Daredevil. Everybody forgets that and stuff, right? But I'm one of those people I actually like when Spider-Man and Daredevil kind of meet. I like the street level heroes. I picture all the street level heroes sort of, kind of hanging out anyway. You know what I mean? They're our first line of defense, on the ground before you get to the Avengers and move your way your way up. You know what I mean? So yeah, there you go. That was cool. That is definitely worthy, right? And I skipped the book. Well, it's live, whatever, right? So this is the other book that out there that isn't from the big two, right? But I think I've told the story many times. I did keep the bag. You'll see that says $2.50. But I believe it was around the year 2000. I don't know, maybe around the year 2000 that I was in Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. If you've ever been down there in Tennessee, the whole place is a tourist place, right? And they have a comic book shop there. And I'd been to the comic book shop with it, in the 90s, but it had been acquired by a new owner. And while I was in there, this was the first time that all the books had been sort of in order. And the lady was bragging that her son had come down from Washington, D.C. to Tennessee and had put all her books in the computer. So there's no need for me to haggle and because I tried to haggle and do some prices. This is also the same time that I got my first comics. Reprints of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 2 or 3 of those in the same place. Got those cheap also, right? But she said that her son had come down, and it had everything had been priced. It's in that computer, and there will be no haggling. And she knows exactly what she has, and she knows exactly how much it's worth. As I'm pulling out the first appearance of Hellboy, as she's talking, and it's $2.50, right? So yes, now again, we cameos. What's considered a first appearance and things like that. What is it? San Diego Comic Con. The Comic Con is there's a flyer or something where that's considered the first appearance of Hellboy that Mike Mignola had done. And I'm not splitting hairs. That's recognized. That's fine. But if you look at that, it does not look like Hellboy. You know what I mean? And as I was looking these up on Comic Book Price Guide, Comic Line Price Guide, whatever. Let me see here. Did I even do this? Yeah, this is about $150 book. $150 book as a gem mint. But there's a next man. I can't remember if it's number 14 or whatever, but there's a poster in the background of Hellboy. And people were trying to say that was like a first appearance also and stuff, right? But if you go to comicbookrealm.com, there is an arrow, a red arrow a triangle pointing down that book is going down in value. People are coming to their senses and stuff, right? I personally consider this the first appearance of Hellboy because this is the proper appearance, even though this is a comic book character supposedly coming into the real world due to a character acquiring powers, if you will, who worked at a comic book company. She was bringing comic book heroes into the real world. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, to me, this is it. This is Mike Mignola art inside. John Byrne did a few pages. When Hellboy pops up, it's Mike Mignola. This is his proper look. To me, this is Hellboy. Okay. I have no problem with people saying the San Diego Comic Con, whatever it is, that's the first appearance, whatever. It doesn't look like Hellboy. I don't know. This is Hellboy. To me, that was like a prototype or something, or that could have been a whole new character. So I'm very happy to have that. Back to Marvel, guys, right? So I've had this book several times, and every time I've found this book, I have found it in dollar bins. And I remember people talking to Mike Golden. We're going back to high school, late 80s. I remember people were crazy about this character, and I didn't get it. I didn't really get it. Her power was kind of cool, but I feel like this is one of the reasons I kind of stayed away from the X-Men again until Art Adams and the Asgardian Wars, because I would pick, I had a friend who was collecting X-Men. I would get a book here and there, and I'd read the Silver Age X-Men from the stepdad's collections and stuff, right? But people were nuts about Rogue. Rogue and Wolverine were the big characters there, right? Rogue, who'd been part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and had all these ties to Mystique and Destiny and things like that, and who could not be touched. She had to be covered from Apparently, she had a rockin' bod, and she had to stay covered from um, head to toe because if you touched her skin, she couldn't control her powers. She would absorb your powers and your memories, and she just destroyed Miss Marvel. You know what I mean? Like, she had all the, and she was hated, and somehow she ended up joining the X-Men. I think I have the issue, but whatever. And of course, she was a Southern belle, But this is King Size Avengers' first appearance of Rogue, King Size Avengers, excuse me. Well, King Size Annual number 10. This is the second or third one that I have acquired in dollar bins over the years and stuff. They're out there, guys. They're out there, right? But yeah, this had to be done because I have met Mike Golden. I have come around to seeing what people see in Mike Golden. I always thought Mike Golden was fantastic. I thought he was great. The first time I actually remember paying attention to his stuff was a Batman special that I have around here that he signed. First appearance of Wraith. Well, we won't get into that. But yeah, there you go. This is an Al Milgram cover. I'm hoping I'm remembering right. But anyway, from 1981, what does this go for? $150. If it's Gem Mint, I would probably sell this for $100, just to be, cool about it and stuff, right? Okay, what do we got here? Zynga Comic, Zinc Age Comic. Oh, Josh is out there. What's up, Josh? We all know you put your Tom King book straight into Mylar. I think we all know how I feel about Tom King. That it amazes me that Tom King. It still amazes me that Tom King has fans. But yeah, you give me a Legion of Superheroes Bendis book and a Tom King book, and I got a place in the bathroom that I use those for. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then Taluya, good morning. Great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Charlton 66. I agree with you about Hellboy. For me, how I see it and for what it's worth. I feel the first appearance is when they are part of a story, period. That's not an ad or a promo. Exactly. And it's so bottom line. There shouldn't even be an argument for that. I mean, Mr. Gretzky, I got over 700 Action Comics that need to go into Mylar. That is impressive. I have 2-3 long boxes of Superman comics, Adventure Comics, Superman comics, a lot of stuff from the 70s, a few from the 60s. I might need to go through that. And my favorite stuff still actually is the Alan Moore, John Byrne stuff. I mean, there's been tons of stuff. My favorite version of Superman is the 60s. I loved all that World of Krypton stuff. I love the Thought Beast, the Jim Forrest Krypton. I loved all that stuff. Okay. So this one, if you guys were here in December, this is a little bit of a cheat. This was already in Mylar. There's maybe 1 or 2 books that were already in Mylar when I pulled them out, but I threw them in here. But I acquired this back in, I think, December. If you guys have been watching, you may not be surprised by this, but there was the story of this, that this came from the Stepdad's collection, all the books from the Bronze Age and Silver Age that were in the Stepdad's collection. There's a few that I've sold over the years, and I sold this one back in 2010, 11, 12, somewhere right in there. And out of all the books, I sold some of the Jim Steranko Shield books. Didn't bat an eye. And then all of a sudden, there was something about this book. When I sold this book, something didn't feel right. I have no idea why this is one of those books I had to replace. No, it is. This is like a rose, and there's thousands of roses out there, but this is not the rose that I had and kept in the collection. But it's actually a higher grade. You can actually go back into 2010 and 11, and you'll see this book in the collection, right? Somewhere along the line, right? But it is Hulk 104, right? Jim Wilson is in it. There's just something about this that was very emotional as a kid to read the story. Jim Wilson, the way the Hulk was acting, the Rhino was actually felt like a threat back then. I feel like the Rhino's kind of turned into a bit of a joke over the years. I think Marvel has done a disservice to a lot of their villains, going back to the Rick Remender Punisher series. I can go on and on, right? I can bitch about Marvel forever from the last couple years. We don't want that. But anyway, this is good stuff. I think John Severin, Maurice Severin is in here. Maybe it's Herb Trimpe. I don't know. I have not read it in 16, 17 years. I remember reading it before I decided to sell it. Something about this takes me back to the Stepdad's collection when I was first reading comics. So we had to do that one. Right. I probably looked up the price. I don't know. I don't know. So I don't have it wrote down, but we'll get there, right? Now, this book I bought off the stands, right? You had things coming on the comic book stands that were exciting for Marvel because you were getting a different quality paper, right? You were getting brighter colors on these pages, right? It was a new format. Okay, you can see this with the X-Men versus Avengers, Mephisto versus Fantastic Four, Avengers. That 4-issue miniseries where every issue was a different team he was taking on, right? And then you got this with Wolverine. Hey guys, I know we have some seasoned collectors here. Maybe you know what I'm talking about, or maybe you just remember this book coming out. But as a kid, I think I was 14 when this came out, right? Wolverine was everywhere. He was in the X-Men, all right, books only for a while is what it felt like, right? People would get that. Yes, you had the Frank Miller 4-issue series, right? But he would pop up in Daredevil. There was a one shot that came out in that new format, with Spider-Man and Wolverine that everyone's excited about because it tied to the Hobgoblin. Wolverine was put in your book to increase sales. You know what I'm saying? He and then all of a sudden this series came out. He was in Marvel Comics Presents also as the lead, as the first 12 issues. He was the lead in the anthology series, Coffee Time. And it felt very weird to have this character have his own series. You're like, where do you go with this? And it was Chris Claremont and John Buscema and things like that. But it's my Wolverine #1 that I bought off the stands. Now, here's the problem with this. You would get those comic books for years. I would get off the bus on a Wednesday, run straight over to Magimart and Scotty's Pharmacy that were in walking distance from my house. And I would get my stack of comics. My brother would come down and stay with us every other weekend. So we would walk over there also so he could get some comics. Maybe I would stash a few for him. Maybe I would buy one for him and he'd give me the money back, whatever. So we tried. But this was a new format comic. And what I found out real quick is that these things were so hot off the presses that if you touched them too long before the ink wasn't even dry, by the time I walked home, which took me probably a whole 4 minutes, I have a thumbprint here where it pulled off the ink. Okay. And I have several of these books that happened with. So that was a problem back then. So if you're looking for a mint copy, you better grab it because these things, like I said, this new paper, all I can figure out is that it did not absorb the ink as quick as it needed to be as it was shipped out, right? There was nothing like being crushed, sitting there like, I got a Wolverine #1, and you did it. Now, you're saying, Tim, it was $1.50 back then, right? Why don't you just go get you another one off the rack and stuff? You didn't think like that back then. That $1.50 would have got me into the movies. That $1.50 would have helped paid for me to go to the skate rink where the females were. You know what I mean? There was a lot of things that you had to weigh and balance and stuff, right? So no, that was it, right? So that's the story, right? Here we go. Gretzky is there. Kurt Swan is my favorite Superman artist. Man, I gotta go. Swan is fantastic. I wish Swan had been able to actually get off the books and do more things with the Legion. I wished he would have done some more team books like Justice League and stuff. There is a one shot that came out around 88 or 89. I want to say 89. I think it was Giffen plotted. It's a one shot. It's Aquaman, and it's some of the most beautiful work that Kurt Swan ever did. Okay. It is worth looking up, and you can probably find it in a dollar box. All right. So now this book here, I'm going to show you, we are at the Spider-Man, right? We are at Spider-Man. This is issue, I'm going to go ahead and tell you it's 361. You may or may not know what that is, right? Let me see if I looked up the how much that was. Like I said, I just kind of did this. $225 for a mint copy. I have found this 3 different times. Okay. And I love that I've documented this on YouTube, even though that there's no telling where the video is. But I found this quite cheap, right? I would buy it, I would sell it, use that money to like go to Heroes Con or whatever. No big deal, right? And then I finally acquired one and I kept it. And I'm glad I did because it was probably 6 months later that everyone knew that Carnage was going to be in the movie. You know what I mean? That he was going to be in a movie, the Venom movie and stuff, right? So I have all 3 parts of this, but this is a newsstand edition that I was able to acquire at a flea market up in Brush Fork, West Virginia. That is probably less than 30-minute drive from here. I got it for $1, so yeah, newsstand edition. I remember when this came out also on the stand. I bought it off the stand. I mean, I've had this many times, so I've decided to settle down and just have one. And lo and behold, I do believe this is probably in better shape than the one I had before it that I sold, but 361. I don't know about putting the two other parts in there, but everyone is Carnage crazy. I actually have not seen the second Venom movie with Woody Harrelson as Carnage, which I thought was fantastic casting for Kincaid. So I actually have it on one of the streaming services to watch. I don't know what it's on, but yeah, if you've seen the movie, let me know. Tell me how they did it. I actually have the last two Venom movies. The stepson and the wife are huge fans of the Venom movies. So, I can take them and leave them after seeing the first one. No biggie, right? Now this one, you comic book aficionados, feel free to jump in there because, like I said, as I look at this, things come to me. I haven't checked it out, but I thought this was funny. This issue is number 95. It has depreciated, but it is also worth $95 mint, right? And it's the first appearance not of a character, but of a character in costume. A lot of people get that wrong, right? And her name is Bobby. And Bobby at this point had probably been around. I think this is 1980. She'd already been around about 9 years. But this is the one where she debuts as a Black Canary archetype, if you will. Okay, right? But we're talking about Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man, Mockingbird. I need to really go back and try to find just to double check this. Um, the great thing about having my CLZ app on my phone is when I enter the books, you can actually look and see when you entered the book. So that'll give me an idea of when I got the book. Maybe because I've only had that app for 5 or 6 years. If I acquired this before that, I'm out of luck. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I found this in a dollar bin, like within the last 8 years, we'll say, right? I'm pretty sure, almost sure, right? But yeah, this book kind of stays hot. I really didn't pay attention to Mockingbird until John Byrne came on the West Coast Avengers, right? Steve Englehart did some stuff to her in the Wild West with the original Ghost Rider and some things like that. And I was like, what? But anyway, I would always kind of chuckle. I would dismiss her. I saw her in Solo Avengers, don't get me wrong, but what they did is they had Hawkeye slash Green Arrow. They gave him a girlfriend, such as Black Canary slash Mockingbird. You see how that works? But Mockingbird, she's a pretty good character, right? But she had been around since about 1971, I think, as an agent of Shield. So that's what I'm saying. You comic book aficionados, if you really want to dive deep in there, yeah, she's been around for a while. Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man, Mockingbird. This is like Patsy Walker before she became Hellcat. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a lot of these characters when they first appeared in costume, a lot of people confuse them with first appearances. Period, and that's not how it is, right? So anyway, that's one I put in Mylar, and it just popped in my head. Now this one surprised me. This very surprised me. If you watch this channel, you have heard me acquired. I don't know. I've got several of these over the years. It's a Marvel Super Special. Okay. And when they would take the Marvel Super Specials, when they would do an adaptation of the movies, they would take the magazine of the Marvel Super Special that was kind of oversized and put it out. Usually had a Sienkiewicz cover on it for your Star Wars and your Raiders of the Lost Ark and things like that. But this one's a little bit different. But they would take that and for newsstand, they would bust it up into two, 3 comics sometimes, right? For your movies, 4 comics for Return of the Jedi, things like that, right? But this has ended up being possibly my favorite movie. Don't know how many times I've watched this movie. I absolutely love this movie, and I was so happy to find the super special edition. It's smaller than magazine zine size. I have no idea why it's smaller. And actually, I've acquired 3 of these over the years, and they're scattered. I don't know. I have a box of just TV stuff, TV and movie adaptations, so maybe I need to get into that. But I do have 3 of these, right? $120 is what this is worth, and it has a Jim Steranko cover on this. Al Williamson doing the art. Al Williamson. I love those guys. Take this anyway. But what is very cool about this is I met Arthur Pseudonym, the guy who did mostly known for his fantastic Marvel Zombies covers, where he would do homage zombie versions of great Silver Age covers and stuff for Robert Kirkman's Marvel Zombies miniseries and on and on. But I met him. He signed some stuff from Epic Illustrated, and we had a little talk about heavy metal and stuff. But as he was flipping through one of the Epic Illustrated magazines that he signed for me because he did the cover, he came across the Al Williams advertisement, the ad for the Blade Runner adaptation, and I ended up telling him about Al Williams. He was a fan, but I ended up doing a little bit of a lesson in comics to Arthur Pseudonym. We talked about 30 minutes. I have pictures of us together and stuff. It was fantastic, which blew my mind. I talked comics with Arthur Pseudonym, right? But anyway, enough of that talk, right? But this is Blade Runner Marvel Super Special. Number 22, not magazine size, right? And like I said, I have 3 of these. I will pick this up. I will pick up Kamiko, Steve Rude's special Space Ghost. Like I said, they're just books I will pick up. And they're good. And these were out of dollar bins, right? So that blows my mind that it's shot up for some reason. I don't know if it's nostalgia. I don't know if it's a Harrison Ford thing. I don't know if it's a Philip K. Dick thing. I don't know. But I thought that was fantastic, right? These are other books. Now, this one book, this is probably my 3rd copy of this over the years because I'm pretty sure it was in the house. But we're going to come up with 2 ladies here, 2 ladies, if you will, if we want to call them ladies, But it was so fantastic. I actually had a full run of this. And a couple years ago, I just kind of picked through the books I wanted to keep because I cannot handle Carmine Infantino artwork. Okay. I believe Mark Wade did a few of these issues. Mark Grunwald did a few of these issues, and Mark Grunwald, you can get by with his writing. He's fun, he's cool, he does some very cool stuff. But I finally reached a point where I'm not going to read this series again, so I kept some issues. Number 1, number 50, the werewolf, the X-Men appearances, first appearance of the second Siren, things like that. And it is number 1 of Spider-Woman, not her first appearance, guys, but her ongoing series, right? Now, why do I remember Spider-Woman so well and things like that? Because I watched the cartoon when it came out. I carried the VHS tape from the 90s up until about about 3 or 4 years ago when I sold my VHS collection and my VCR for $500, give or take there, right? Yes, Spider-Woman. I was big on the cartoon back in the day, and I remember when Spider-Man popped up on the cartoon, right? Now, let me say this, okay? Little interlude here. Tubi, Tubi. It is a free streaming service. It is better than Netflix. I have the Roku, right? March 1st, they were releasing tons of cartoons on Tubi they've acquired from Warner Brothers, right? You might want to check that out. But anyway, that's Saturday morning. But here it is. Did I look this up? Yeah, $50, maybe a $50 book. You know what I mean? But as a kid, I've said many times I had no choice. I didn't stand a chance. Comics were everywhere. They were in the house. They were on television. Superman was in the theater. The reruns of George Reeves and the Lone Ranger on Sundays that I would play around on my little TV on the antenna that was like a 10-inch or something like that, right? This stuff was everywhere. The Hulk was on television. Wonder Woman was on television. Buck Rogers was on television. And I wanted to do another little interlude, right? The other night I had a little bit of insomnia, and I think I was streaming. I was getting on some channels, probably on Amazon Prime or something, right? My wife keeps the Amazon Prime. She uses it for her side business and stuff, right? So I was just kind of playing around with that. And they had the 1998 show Nightman on there based on they said Marvel Comics, but we all know it was Malibu. You know what I'm saying? That was a syndicated show. And guess what, guys? I don't know if you guys remember Manimal from the 80s, the guy that could turn into a hawk or a Black Panther and whatnot and stuff. The actual actor playing as Manimal was on an episode with Jack the Ripper on it. You talk about a freaking love fest that I was having watching this at like 2 a.m. Okay. So there you go. Right. Let's check out some comments before I finish up through these. Oh, Gretzky said he used to have that, one of the books I showed. I wish I had some of my Fantastic Four books. I got a whole box of Fantastic Four books, and I'll probably be going through that pretty soon. I want to put issue 100, and then I want issues 121 to 124 in there. I can go on. Jim Steranko was missed at Heroes last year. Gretzky, I have seen Steranko so many times at Heroes Con over the year that I feel bad because I'm not joking. It's an observation, but I have actually watched Jim Steranko shrink over the years, but the wig stays the same size. You'll never be able to see it again. I have left Heroes Con early on a Friday just to have Jim Steranko. You go up the escalator just to have Jim Steranko and his handlers coming by me. And I'm like, don't look, don't look, Uh, Carmine was best of on Flash. I have the Flash books. Yeah, I could handle some of that. Gretzky, I love Tubi TV. Tubi is fantastic. I'm going to be acquiring a antenna here pretty soon for HD TV to get me TV finally. And Manimal, it has been remembered. Okay, last two Marvel books here, right? Now, this one is a Stan Lee written book, guys. And this was completely because, as I understand comic book lore, grain of salt here because I'm going by memory, but one of the reasons we started getting female versions of our Marvel heroes were for IP reasons. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that if you read Legion of Superheroes, there's a Spider Woman over there in the Legion of Super Villains. All right, with Medusa hair. You know what I mean? It's wild, right? So anyway, they came up with the idea of like we better get female versions of these characters, and they put out things just to print them, right? And little did we know that this character would be elevated by John Byrne. I completely lay it at his feet by putting her in the Fantastic Four after she was in the Avengers and things like that. She already had a fan following, don't get me wrong, but to me it just elevated her when John Byrne got a hold of her, right? And actually, when I think of She-Hulk, I think John Byrne. But yes, the first appearance of She-Hulk. This book has gone up. This is a $200 book. And guys, we'll just get it out of the way. Yes, the Disney show was trash. Okay. If you liked it, good for you. I'm glad you were able to. But it's things like that. I get these feelings of secondhand embarrassment. And that's the kind of thing that stigmatizes comics. You know what I mean? Like there's repercussions, right? Is this good? Is this bad? It is what it is, right? I have the if you watch this channel, I think it was last year at Hillsville, Virginia, where they turn twice a year, they turn the entire town into a flea market. I acquired issues two. Did I acquire this last year? I don't remember when I bought this. I have to look it up. But anyway, I know that I was able to get a complete run of the series for much less than $1 a piece. The comics were $1 a piece, but the more you bought, the easier you were able to get a better price. There is a chance I got this for $1. I can't remember. We'll move on, right? Now, this one, as of right now, some people have watched this channel for a while. Some people have seen me on my Instagram, which I really have neglected. I have not been playing a lot on social media lately and stuff, right? But off the top of my head, I do feel like I got this out of $1 box years ago. And then the book exploded. Or maybe it was already exploding. I don't know. All right. But this is a newsstand copy. I have a soft spot for certain books. Okay. Little Monsters, Gold Key / Dale, one of my favorite books from a kid. Super goofy, one of my favorite kids. Yes, I was watching The Omen, and I was watching Salem's Lot at 5 and 6 years old. Yes, I had like John Byrne, Mark Grunwald, and all these guys on my Avengers and some in the House of Mystery and all the stuff. There's some heavy stuff. I was watching the stuff, right? But watching Super Goofy pop that peanuts to get his powers, getting up on Sundays and watching Tennessee Tuxedo, Rocky Bullwinkle, and Underdog. It was all there. I was still a kid, right? And one of the most fantastic things I'm glad I was able to watch was the pilot episode that was a mini movie of the Thundercats. That was one of the greatest things I believe I watched as an 11/12-year-old, right? I don't want to say too much about the rest of the series. I have a season set or half a season set or whatever upstairs. But yeah, the Thundercats, right? Thundercats ho, you know what I mean? Sight beyond sight. But I actually bought the couple of 2, 3 of these issues off the newsstand and they disappeared. Now, were they not buy? Did they not order them? Or were people buying them up? I don't know. Right. And over the years, it disappeared. Maybe I sold it, maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, I was glad to acquire number one because the first issue is really the only one I wanted at the time, right? Because that pilot episode, I wasn't really impressed with the storylines with the rest of the series. I would rush home and watch the Filmation Masters of the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe show. Luckily, at 5 o'clock, we would start getting, after He-Man, we would actually start getting, uh, people went nuts, but it didn't last long enough to get Star Trek at 5 o'clock, the original series and stuff. This is like 86, guys. That was a big deal back then, right? So a lot of memories with those and stuff, right? Okay, guys. We're at the DC thing, right? So, oh, Gretzky said I sold my Fantastic Four to Andy a few years ago. Awesome, right? So now we're at the DC stuff, guys, right? So let me take this moment. If you're liking what you're seeing, right? I know I'm starting to get into storyteller mode. I'm going to rein it in a little bit, but make sure you're subscribed. Share the video. Let people know we're here where we talk about our comics and those memories and stuff. Thumbs up the video. Share the video. And like I said, my analytics show that there's a ton of people checking out my videos who are not subscribed, right? And if you're already subscribed, man, you guys are here. You see, you remember things. I appreciate it so much. And there's guys, I kind of worry when some of you guys don't show up. You know what I mean? So I mean, if I don't see John saying hello, I'm like, is he okay? So all right, I seem to be waking up. I'm starting to giggle uncontrollably, right? All right, so here we go to the DC stuff, guys. All right. And I think this is the best stack, to be honest with you, right? So we've got some no-brainers. Number 428 for $1 back in the day, right? I actually did not buy Death in the Family back in the day. I was getting Captain Atom #1. The Shazam miniseries around this time, going by memory and stuff. This stuff was on the stand. And I remember seeing, this is one of the few times that I remember there was a gas station where I was living at the time. You could walk down to it probably like 3 or 4 miles back when we did this stuff just for fun and stuff. And I remember for 3 or 4 months, all 4 issues of this stayed on the stands. At the same time, I remember Phantom Stranger miniseries around this time, also still on the stands, all because of Mike Mignola covers. Right, Mike Mignola had a distinctive style, as you can see, but he had not ended up doing Cosmic Odyssey with Jim Starlin with all the Kirby Fourth World characters, where for a year. This isn't a documentary, Drawing Monsters, that's free on YouTube now and all the streaming services. There is a fantastic documentary on Hellboy and Mike Mignola, and there's a part there where he talked about having all the Jack Kirby stuff laid out in front of him, and that's where he started to really get into exaggerating his figures and stuff. Right at this point, he hadn't. I didn't really come around to Mike Mignola until his World of Krypton with John Byrne. But at the time, the covers were considered ugly. I don't think anybody's surprised about that. Mike Mignola is an artist that other artists like. Of course, with Hellboy and stuff, he has a huge following. They made a freaking documentary on him. He's got his empire, not slamming him. But in the 80s, okay, people were not Mignola crazy at the time. They were not. That's why Death in the Family stood there, right? So that's the Death of Robin, right? This one surprised me. I know I've got this in a stack of comics, probably at a flea market or something, right? I knew it was a Neil Adams Batman. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, let me see what that Batman is worth. I haven't been doing this, right? Thundercats is $140 book. Jim Mint at this time. Batman 2, what is that? 423, $250 book. That can't be right. Oh wait, I just spoiled something. I have a bunch there. 428, excuse me. 428 is a $70 book at Mint. Sorry. Spider Woman, $50. She Hulk, $200. Am I seeing anything else? Marvel Team Up, $95. Amazing Spider-Man, $361 that I showed with Carnage, $225. Yeah, that kind of stuff, right? So this book, this detective book, did I look it up? Well, Detective Comics, this would be a $277 book, Mint. Now, this is probably a very good copy and stuff, right? But like I said, this is number 407 of Detective Comics, a Man Bat issue with Neil Gaiman's art. I think Frank Robbins wrote this. I don't know, man. But yeah, we had to put this in here. Now, why do I grab stuff? I'm absolutely, like everyone else, love that darker era of Batman they brought back. But these were in the house, right? I don't know if the stepdad was a Neil Adams fan or like a Dead Man fan. You follow what I'm saying? But there was all sorts of Brave and the Bold and all sorts of Batman from this era, right? And speaking of that era, this, if you guys have been around quite a bit, this is Giant Batman, which is actually part of the Batman series. It's not a special. Batman 213, $185, right? If this was mint, this is a beautiful copy, but of course that is not mint, right? But this was a one. This is probably the first Batman book I can remember reading from the Stepdad's collection. This came out in the late '60s. It did not have a cover. It did not have the front page, but on the top of the each page it says Giant Batman. So I always look for a Batman special. You know what I mean? They had weird things coming out there, a giant Batman, giant 80-page Batman special or something like that, right? I didn't realize it was in there, and I found this a couple years ago. And what was memorable about it? Well, it does have the Red Hood story from the 50s reprinted in it, but it was the Clayface story, the origin of Clayface. So when I got this book, I read it and I was like, a book I haven't read since I was a kid. How does it read now that I'm adult? 40 some years later, at the time, right? And it is amazing how my little 5-year-old mind expanded the story. I remember him being in a cave, and this cave was magical that it was drawn in there, and you get in there and it's 2 panels. My little mind in between those panels gave it a grand scale, a production value. Okay, so fantastic book. Absolutely love that. And this is one that was off the stands, right? I absolutely love this. Now you got to remember, this was a volatile time in Batman, and I could be misremembering things, right? And we're going back 20 years, which blows my mind, right? But this book came out. We had Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee had come on, and they had their fantastic Hush storyline where they everybody thought that Jason Todd was back, and then they retconned it to where it was Clayface. And, it was a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne we had never heard of, and things like that. And then the book was kind of up and down. All-Star Batman by Frank Miller and Jim Lee had also kind of pissed everybody off maybe around this time. And then old Judd Winnick from, what was it, the second or third season of The Real World from the 90s and things like that, comes in. Barry Ween, genius boy, the guy that did The Exiles, the guy who did this and that and everything like that. He comes on Batman, and he writes this brilliant story where we do get the return of Jason Todd, and it is the Red Hood and things like that, right? So here is Batman, excuse me, 635, $160 book. This is mint. All right. This whole run that I have is mint, and I pulled this one out. It is so satisfying to buy something off the stands and have it just pop, because you were getting this fantastic story. And if you were fans of the return of Jason Todd properly, um, there's an issue that you need to get of Teen Titans with Jeff Johns. And I've said this many times. This is when I became a Jason Todd fan, right? With the Red Hood. But it showed Jason Todd arriving on Teen Titans Island, right? Jeff Johns had been writing the Titans, I believe, at this time, or maybe he'd handed it off. But anyway, it's definitely a Jeff Johns story, but it shows Jason Todd as the Red Hood arriving on Teen Titans Island. And as he's walking down the sidewalk, they have statues of Cole and a few people. They're fallen Titans, the Titans that have died in the book and things like that. And he looks around and he's like, I was a Titan and I died. And where's my statue? And right there, I was on Jason's side, right? Now, if you are mad about that story where he came back because they had Superboy with Infinite Crisis punching a reality wall, and the waves and the shock of that was changing reality, have no fret. Get the straight to DVD, and you can probably stream it on YouTube. You can probably stream it definitely on HBO Max, probably, maybe even Tubi. I don't know, but you need to get the adaptation they did around 2010 of Under the Red Hood. They fix it. No reality punching. They brought him back the way a lot of us were guessing, you know what I mean, of how you would bring back a Batman character to life. You know, if you know Batman canon, I do not need to go on, right? Now, this one, guys, over the last 2 or 3 years, I pulled this out of a dollar box right beside of the guy that was putting it up in the antique shop. And this is also the same place where I found those extra issues of Sandman, early issues of Sandman, the Watchmen books for $1, which helped me get close to completing a second set of Watchmen books, things like that. So this was a honey pot for a while, right? And anyway, when I found this, I about fell down because this was stolen off me. This is one of the books where I'm redeemed. It is a first print, and this thing is famous simply because of the cover. It's been homaged. It's a Todd McFarlane cover, Batman 423. This is the one that would be $250 mint. The second, I think the second print, it said $100 or something like that. But this is indeed a first print in newsstand. And it is a little bit higher than mid grade. You know, at some point, you know, I'll probably look at it. I probably would go 150 on it and stuff, right? But the fact that I bought it for $1, so, and it had been stolen from me, yeah, I'm so glad to have this. Just because, yes, when I saw that cover, I thought it kicked ass. It still does, right? This one, guys, you're not going to believe I got for $1. I remember finding it for $1, but not only did I find it for $1, but it's in mint condition. It is in mint condition. And no, it is not the actual first appearance, even though I have her third appearance. But this is the first appearance of her in the mainstream DC comics, right? And the artist who painted the cover used his own face to be one of the villains that is on the cover and stuff, right? And I think it is absolutely brilliant. I love that it is in my collection. You know, it's Paul Dini written. When Paul Dini, Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, the guys behind I know it's more Bruce Timm, don't get me wrong, behind the Batman animated series. As long as Paul Dini is writing straight Batman, I love his writing. You know, when he goes the other way and writes something a bit more punish. Anyway, there's stuff I don't like by him, right? And he also has a thing for Zatanna, to where even he married a magician who dresses up like Zatanna in real life. It blows my mind, right? But enough said. This is Batman Harley Quinn, turn of the century book. I don't know when this came out, 99 maybe. But Batman Harley Quinn, her first appearance in the proper DC universe, right? $175. Of course, that had to go in the Mylar. All right, guys, had to. That is just fantastic stuff, right? And I'm glad Charlton 66 has popped in. Hopefully, he'll, if he's not with us, he'll be in it. But I'm not going to put his information here. But on the back of this, let me cover that up. It says from the collection of, and then it has the person's real name, right? This was a gift to me from Charlton 66 back in the day. Justice League of America, a grown-up Robin, the first Silver Age appearance of Robin from Earth 2. Now, guys, long-time viewers may know it. Maybe they don't, but as a kid, before Crisis, as much as I love Crisis, don't get me wrong, I think Crisis actually made me feel validated at 12 years old for reading this stuff at that time for 8 years and being a DC guy and a Marvel world, if you will. But I'm a huge fan of Earth 2. I absolutely love the idea of the multiverse, right? Not so much now after, and I blame it on the MCU for turning into a bad plot point. And also the mind of a child that is very forgiving when things were just cool and new, right? But I love Earth. I love the crime syndicate of Earth 3, right? I love the Squadron Supreme over there of those versions, right? I loved the Justice League JSA to this day crossovers of yesteryear where they did them better and stuff, right? So yes, as Silver Age and hokey as that is and stuff like that, love that stuff, right? There's just things out there that you can't you can't really convince people that it's really cool. You can take a few looks every now and then, but then if they go through their collection, they'll be like, oh yeah, I got those books. Okay. Gretzky's out there. I never had any Harley Quinn. A lot of people are looking for #1 issue, at least online, #1 issue of the ongoing series by Amanda Connor that I think came out 20 some years ago. I don't know. I have an action comic, which was like Harley Quinn's. I have the third appearance of Harley Quinn in comics with the Batman Adventures annual, #1. I think that's what it was back in the 90s, but also have her third appearance proper in the DC proper universe in an Action Comics. You know, who knew? Yeah, the Poor Degaton stories, 1982. Yeah. Uh, Avengers 207 to 209. Crossed over with All Star Squadron 16 and 17, maybe. Yeah. I'm around in there somewhere. Now, this book here, I was there from the beginning when this came out. This is a brilliant book. This to me is the most underrated, even though it is an award winning series. It has a cult following. ABC, in my opinion, ripped it off with Once Upon a Time, which I'm actually want to kind of check out a few episodes on them that I'm remembering to kind of make sure before I run my mouth on it that this to me, this is like required reading. I would seriously put it's so original and so well thought of and it's on its own thing that I would put it like on a list, not up there with it, but on a list with like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, Starman, my James Robinson Starman. This is one of those runs that's just fantastic and stuff, right? And I was there from the beginning and I had this book, but I rage quit it. I raged quit it because I was starting to kind of figure out who the great adversary was that were running all the creatures out of their realms and they come to the real world. You know what I mean? And Bill Willingham was creating this fantastic little fantastic structured story about how these fairy tale creatures are existing in the real world and their little adventures and things like that and how he tied them all together. And there was an adversary going from each realm, if you will, each dimension, invading it and taking it over and having his army grow bigger. And I was with it for the first 40 issues, 43 issues. And then issue 44 came out where we found out who the adversary was. And it was not Peter Pan. I was starting to figure out it had to be Peter Pan just by Peter Pan's omission, you know, and then the pirate things, right? Um, and yeah, it turns out I was on the right track. I wasn't convinced. I was just like, that was probably like a list of one or two characters I thought could have been the adversary. Let me make clear I did not figure it out. So it turns out that Bill Willingham had to full stop. And after writing all these books for that many years, he finds out that he has picked the one character, Peter Pan, who the courts in London had made an exception to the copyright law because the proceeds of anything Peter Pan go to an orphanage and they get a lot of their money from the Peter Pan stuff, right? So he had to change it to Geppetto, and I raged quit. I put it on, I put it on eBay, sold the whole set. So I'm glad that I was able to find this at a con sometime in the last couple years to at least get the number one. And right here is my shelf right here of Fables. I was able to acquire quite a bit of the trades at a Dublin flea market a few years ago for $1.25 a piece, and at Ollie's I was able to get quite a few of the hardback editions of the trades and stuff. Right. So yeah, I have probably over 60 issues that I've acquired over the years of Fables that I'm going to get rid of and just go straight to trade and go for the hardbacks and stuff. But that number one will stay here, right? Now, guys, a lot of people want issue 21 of this next book. And as a matter of fact, after some of the comic book companies, I remember well and always will, like 10 years ago, decided that it's time to get a modern audience in, and they were wanting people that were over 35 and up to just go away. We're not making comics for old men. They have decided that if you have looked at it, we have had dollar comic reprints of Silver and Bronze Age stuff. We have had facsimile editions come out of our ears. And we are going to have a facsimile edition of this coming out, I do believe. And also, after some of the things that have gone on over the years, they have decided that they are bringing back and going to complete Rick Veitch's run. We're going to get a little mini series in a few months here, where he gets to complete his story of this character after Alan Moore had quit and a few other things. But a lot of people go for issue 20. It's called The Anatomy Lesson. And when I read this book as a kid, so help me, the Floronic Man, you're probably starting to figure out where I'm going with this. The Floronic Man it opens up with the Floronic Man still looking human, looking out a window while it rains while he's drinking wine, I believe, or something like that. And so help me, as a kid, as he was monologuing and talking, things like that, like an old movie, old black and white movie. So help me, I heard Vincent Price to this day. But what I didn't know, due to just being oh my god, I think I was still in middle school or something. But anyway, I did not realize that there was an issue before this where Alan Moore had set up the story of killing the Swamp Thing. So what I have put in Mylar here is Swamp Thing number 20, the proper first issue that Alan Moore did, where he was tying up threads from the previous writer, so that he could have a fresh start. He literally killed the Swamp Thing and rebuilt him, much like he did in with Captain Britain. He had done this trick before in England and stuff, right? But he literally killed the character to symbolize the end of that run, and the next issue was the new issue. So yeah, I have two copies, one newsstand, one straight away. I think I've looked this up. This book is actually no, I did not look up the value, right? But this book is actually I honestly think it might be over $100. I'm not sure now, but as time goes by and people figure it out that that's the first issue. But yeah, it's sort of the death. You see it right on the cover. Swamp Thing is killed at the end of the issue, and then the next issue is the anatomy lesson where the Floronic Man does his amazing story of doing an autopsy on the Swamp Thing, and we find out that he's an elemental. He's never been human. This book I sold. Now you talk about making the right decision, because it kind of hurt. You know what I mean? I was going through some books. I was like, I need to do this. This original copy I had of this issue, it had the old rusty had the rusty staple in it. And yes, I do believe that I replaced the staple with another book from the same year, that didn't have a cover, but the damage had been done. A little bit of browning on there and stuff. It had traveled onto the page and everything like that. And I just made the decision to get rid of it, to sell it. This is probably like 10, 11 years ago, right? And then somewhere along the line, I came across this that was in better shape. And so help me, I do believe I got it out of a dollar box. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, Shazam number 1 in much better condition. CC Beck. Oh, no. Excuse me. See, this is what's great about this. I saved the price tag. It was a very good condition at the time for $20. And I remember now, and I ended up getting it much cheaper than that. There was like a half sale going on. So I got this between $5 and $10. I remember the lot that I bought. See, that's all I need. The way my memory works, all I need is something to poke it. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, there we go. Anyway, that's not important, right? But as a kid, I discovered Shazam like many other people my age. I was about 4 or 5 when this thing was winding up, but it was the Filmation live action TV show on Saturday mornings with ISIS. Okay. So yeah, this is what I'm trying to tell you. I didn't stand a chance. That's where I discovered Shazam. And then lo and behold, in my house, in those world finest books that the stepdad and the uncle had, there were some Shazam stories by Don Newton. So, and then I went backwards from there. And then in 1980, 81, we had another show that has some live action mixed with animation, and it was Hero High. And they had some Filmation Shazam shorts in it, animated, and that's where I discovered Black Adam properly and stuff like that. And so help me, I went through and found a reprint of the Black Adam story from the 40s, and so help me, I do anyway. I can go on and on and on, right? So yeah, I'm a Shazam guy. One of the reasons I loved Kingdom Come is we finally had the Shazam versus Superman proper. And as everybody knows, Mad Magazine finally popped because they started parodying superheroes, and they brought in Superman versus whatever funny version of Shazam was, and things like that. This is a very important character. Now, I am of the mind that Shazam could defeat Superman. I'm one of those guys, right? But it's kind of like the World Wrestling Federation under Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is not going to let something he didn't create defeat something he did. You know what I mean? So, Sting at WrestleMania. Let's just throw that out there. Here we go. We got a few more here in the trades. Charleston 66, I'm so glad you're there. I love the Earth too as well. Great seeing that book. I'm glad it made it into the video. It's cherished, my friend. It is cherished, right up there with Epic Illustrated, the first appearance of the first chapter one of the Galactus story, I believe. In the trades, her first appearance is left out of Batman Adventures. Oh, wow. Okay, talking about Harley Quinn. I did not know that. Gretzky again, Once Upon a Time was a great show until the last season. Okay, that's good to know. Bill Willingham has been very gracious that when he has done interviews and things like that, he does not stir the pot with what I've seen. I've read, maybe seen at least two interviews. I think I've seen one on YouTube, and he just doesn't go there, and he doesn't seem to. At least he doesn't portray sour grapes, is what I'm getting. Charleston 66 again. Per Degaton, a favorite villain. I know he's yours. I think you have some original art of Per Degaton that you had commissioned or something. I'm going by memory here. I have his first appearance from the Golden Age. Yes, I'd love to have Vandal Savage's first appearance. Not going to happen though. Way too much money. Vandal Savage is somebody I had to. It took a little while for me to really like that character. Now I absolutely love him. Yeah, I have a thing for caveman and Bigfoot to begin with. There's post-apocalyptic caveman. There's certain things I like, and Vandal Savage fits in that. The Big Red Cheese for the win, hands down. That's why Charlton 66 is one of my favorite channels, guys. All right, Afro is definitely check him out. Afro Sci-Fi, great to see you. Jealous. Okay. Now, this is a book I acquired with Josh. If he's on here, Zinc Age Comics. Well, not with him. We were there. But we went down to Hillsville for a toy show. There's a couple of boxes of comics. I skipped the last one they had. It was a little bit of a flop for what I was looking for. But lo and behold, as we were getting ready to leave, there's these 4 boxes that he had found. They weren't open. The way I remembered, I don't think anybody was at the table when I walked in. But as we were walking out, I was walking out, there was Josh going through, and it was gold. It was gold, right? I ended up getting a stack of several. Well, we're going to move them around. We're going to move them around because I also acquired these at the same time. I think I got these for $20 with 2 or 3 other books, right? But anyway, these made it into Mylar. Enough talk. I am a huge Gray Morrow fan. I have some digest size adventure comics when they were getting ready to end the series. They went from comics to digest, and they did some reprints of Gray Morrow stories of Zatanna. So this is like 1982, 83. I'd absolutely love these. And this is DC Superstars of Magic. It's DC Superstars number 11. With this, I don't know if this is I don't know. This is a huge book that people love. Did I look it up how much it is? I did not, which blows my mind. By this time, I guess I could have gave a crap. But anyway, I came down, went through the boxes, like, where is that? Luckily, I found it right away. Got it in Mylar because this is a beautiful copy, right? Again, this was like a $20 lot or something, right? With 2, 3 other books, right? Forbidden Love, the Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love, that gothic horror romance. There's no doubt in my mind that Dark Shadows made all these books happen, right? In mint condition, this is a $410 book. As you can see, this white line going through there, and I stupidly ended up getting a little bit of the tape on it. So I did that not 5 minutes after buying it and stuff like that, and all this stuff. It is not a mint copy, but I love these covers. I have wanted these books. And here's number 4. I ended up getting number 4. That made it into the Mylar. So yeah, that was all part of a 5-issue lot. I don't remember what the other 2 were. But of course, yes, these had to go in. That price, and like I said, it was at the end of the day. The place had been a dud. Like, it was a wasted trip. That's like an hour and a half drive for me. You know what I mean? Luckily, I drove an hour, met Josh. He drove the rest of the way. But yeah, that was an hour and a half drive. It was cool to hang out with Josh that day. Don't get me wrong and stuff. But this saved the day. This saved the con, if you will, that day. So yeah, that was very cool. So yes, those had to go into Mylar. Here we go. Big baby Sid. I love Mylar. Makes mud look like milk. That is the first thing I remember hearing when people started doing videos with Mylar. And I feel like I was on a live show years ago, and they were like, "It's high def. You take the book and it turns it into high def." That's very cool. Now, these next books, I want people to take a breath. I want people to take a breath because now the writer disgusts people. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is that there's I'm not defending the writer in any way, but if you have read his stuff, I have read his stuff, his short stories, his novel, a few of his little books, a few audiobooks while I was driving for work and stuff. You should not have been, in my opinion. And plus, there's a documentary of him on Tubi I watched where I commented about his behavior in it before the big scandal that hit. And I also said that he was going to be fine because in the world of comics, he is also famous in the real world. He has had movies of his stuff come out. He had 2 or 3 TV shows going on. You know what I mean? Things like that. And it took 6 or 7 months before the mainstream people jumped on it, right? So, what you have to understand about this is that this is the series that, as much as it is now stigmatized because of the author, people are more fans of the work, of the character, of the stories, because they are as well written. Like it is, you're not just going back in time and bubble. You know what I mean? You're not going back to the 90s and the late 80s with this. You are visiting old friends when you read some of them, right? So yeah, I have no problem talking about this series. I am not going to be getting rid of any of the books or anything like that. So we are Neil Gaiman has done something, and these books existed before. You know what I mean, and everything like that. So we've gotten in there, and I have my Sandman #1 in Mylar. I have taken the first appearance of Lucifer, who was a lot of people when Neil Gaiman was coming up with the characters that he was going to put in these books. I refuse to say that he created a lot. He really just sort of took mythology in the Bible and this and mythology and Asgardians and Greek myths and everything like that. And he just put them together. There are original characters in there, but but he based them all, a lot of them on Morpheus looked like him. Okay. Lucifer looked like David Bowie. You know what I mean? Okay. But yeah, that's her first appearance. That's #4, I believe. And #8, the first appearance of Death. This is not the error copy. And then I went ahead and put this one in there because it's a beautiful copy. But this is Sandman #22, the first appearance of the baby Daniel, who will become the new Sandman during Seasons of the Mist, right? So yeah, that's where we're going to end it, guys. Yeah, I put those in there. I have a full run of the original Sandman, and if you watched my videos, there was a time the same honey pot at the antique show where I walked in and I found a complete run of Sandman minus issue 1, 4, and 8, if you will. So I have almost a. I didn't buy all of those, but I have almost a complete 2 complete sets of the Sandman series and things like that, right? So they're going in there. So things that I need to rebag as I do this, I put them in Mylar, I put in the bags, but it blows my mind how the last 20 years have flown by. 16 of it has been here, but it's time for me to rebag my Astro City. It is time for me to rebag my James Robinson Starman. And I'm going through here and I'm finding a lot of books that I bought in the 2000s and even in 2014. It's time to rebag them. And that blows my mind. Guys, the last 20 years have flown by, right? I know my cheeks have gotten a little bit puffier. There's a lot more gray. We have the beard. We shave our head now. You know what I mean? We have lived long enough to be the villain. You know what I mean? I embrace all this and stuff. But when you remember getting a comic book like it was yesterday, or you order, and things like that, and you see that bag is yellowed, or you have comic books from like 1991, where I've been reading Legion 89, 90, 91. I've quit it. There's 70 issues in that series, and I've gotten to 50 with a reread, and that may be as far as I go. And see those pages starting to yellow in those books. That's a wake up call. I'm like, I thought my MRI I had 2 or 3 years ago when I had to get surgery for hernias, not to get TMI. When I had my first MRI and I saw all the things waiting on me and stuff, I thought that was a wake up call. No, when I have a comic book I bought off the stands or something like that, aging, you're just sort of like, oh no. So yeah, not to be a bummer, but yeah, that's it. So, guys, we're going to end it with that. Um, Books that may end up in Mylar, guys. I don't have any. I need to get some fullback slash halfback, but I probably have 20 Mylar books. So, what's your opinion on this? If you're watching the future, make sure you comment. Go ahead and comment now. But these are some books that I'm thinking may be Mylar ready. Okay. I know I have my Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, the First Prince. I know I have The Watchmen 12 issues, a couple of those. I have other runs, a few Fantastic Four issues. But these are some of the books that I'm thinking about that need to go into Mylar. So let me know. And guys, issue 298, if that was, it's that would be a $125 book if it was mint. They are not mint. But issue 299, I'm going to kind of throw it out there, guys. If you have the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, I think number 6, the update from like around 88 or 89, it has Venom on the cover by Ron Friends with a lot of other characters. If you go in there, Marvel recognized, and I think I put it on my Instagram a year or two, I took a picture of it, but Marvel recognized, they will tell you what a cameo appearance was and things like that. They will tell you a first appearance was issue 299 and origin was 300 of Spider-Man. So issue 299 is the actual recognized first appearance of Venom. $150 if it was mint. See, I'm having some fun with some of this stuff, right? Bought this off the rack, off the stand. People went crazy because Venom's face is on there. There's also a Quasar book with Venom's face on there and things like that. And this is kind of sad, man, because I found this in a dollar box, and look at this, from the collection of John H. Rumison II, Middletown, Pennsylvania, established 1972. That's why I can't get rid of some of this stuff, man. You know what I mean? That is, to me, this is sad. This stuff has a legacy. And I'm going to end with this. I've always said I would love to either write a comic or maybe make some kind of little mini movie. I don't care how this sounds. Okay. In my head, it looks like freaking epic cinema. Okay. But I would love to have like a movie just about a comic, maybe a 10-minute movie where you see people talking about here's what's going to happen. And then you see a little montage of them making it, and it goes through a printer and it lands on the spinner rack in 1972, if you will, right? And you see this little kid have it. You see him roll it up. You see him read it, roll it up, put it in his back pocket, and then he sells it, or they move and it gets lost. It ends up in an antique shop. Then somebody buys it. Then they sell their collection and it ends up in a comic book shop. You see the life of a comic book going from handler to handler and how it goes. If Toy Story worked, this would work also. So anyway, guys, thanks for popping in. Love that everybody popped up. Love the comments. Watch on the rewind. Subscribe, share it. Let people know there is a place where we talk about our comics. We reminisce. We do things. If you want a topical video of things in the present, I'm up for it. If you want to give me one, if you have memories of any of these books, if you have ideas about Mylar, things I should put in there. Obviously, a lot of you guys remember a lot of things from over the years and stuff, right? And the most shocking thing, this is a gift for people that are live and have stuck through here and stuff. Yes, Booster Gold #1 will end up in Mylar. Yes, you heard it here. All right. So thank you, guys. Make sure you check out all these guys in here. Charlton 66, Big Baby. It was great to see you. Gretzky, John, Escalatorium, Sci-Fi, Afro Sci-Fi. I don't want to leave anybody out. Thanks for everybody popping up. And let's check out here, right? Some of them. Morpheus looked like Elric. A lot of people look like Elric. I completely Afro Sci-Fi. I'm very touchy. I'm watching. I watched the first episode of The Witcher, and I have maybe the first or second book of The Witcher. I'm going to read with an open mind because I feel like that really bothers me of how much The Witcher comes off like Elric. Robert Wagner's Kane. That is a book. I just read a short story that I didn't realize Kane had a series of books by a guy named Robert Wagner. Apparently, they're from the 70s. It's barbarian stuff with post-apocalyptic nuclear radiation monsters or something. He had Elric. Anyway, sorry, guys. My buddy got 1 through 4 for 50 cents each in 2020. Of what? Gretzky, I'm a little bit behind. Those TV superhero books are the bee's knees, Mylar indeed. I will do it. I need the #1 issue, and I feel like I can do it. Scolatorium. Anything over 40 years should be considered rebagging into Mylar. Thank you. That's I don't know if I came up with the number 40 years, but I'm on the right track because I actually got on my CLZ app and I did it date released to look at years, right? I have some Conan. I have Conan the Barbarian, like, I don't know what it was, 14, 15, 16, 17, Elric versus Conan. Funnily enough, in this box over here, ready to bag. Yep. You and Jared need to make comics together. I agree. I think we do. Wonderful. So Dr. Silver Age, oh my God, he has returned in my eyes. Great to see you, Dr. Silver Age. Wonderful books, all Tim's. Thanks for sharing them and their memories, amigo. Thank you for popping in. Eric Breen, look at this. Hello, goodbye. Sorry I missed this. Please watch on the rewind, Breen. You know, hit the settings, put it on 1.5 speed, 2.0 speed. Check them out, man. And Gretzky, Sandman. Yes, I actually put Jack Kirby's Sandman in there somewhere. Okay, guys, I think it's in the other video. All right, guys, thanks for popping in. I have things to do. I need to eat lunch. I want to finish my coffee. Guys, this has jazzed me up. Thanks for, I cannot, I had fun with this. Can you tell? Okay, can you tell? Okay. All right, now it's time to put my grown-up face on, go out here and face the world, eat a little lunch, read some comic books. I'm currently have a few things to read later this evening, and share the video, guys. Leave some comments. Let's talk about comics, read your comics, and be excellent each other. Later, guys.